Hello, everybody.
How's it going, Michael?
Going good, Gene?
Okay, I don't have my other mic on. I just want to make sure you could hear me. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Looks like we've got a few people here already. Maybe some more coming.
We got some background noise. Anybody else hear that?
Yeah, there's some background noise.
I've got some background noise, yeah. Okay. All right, well, I will pass it over to you, Wendy, and you can take it from here.
Oh, that sounds much better. Hey, everybody, welcome. When I was putting together this training, I really wanted it to be interactive because there's a lot of questions that people have around marketing and messaging, and I just didn't want to throw a whole bunch of information at you without it being contextual in what it is that you're doing in your business. And although I'm aware everybody here is hypnotherapists or have incorporated that in some aspect of their business, I know there's going to be a lot of just generalized questions. So I'm going to kind of go into and start the conversation with things that I see in the industry that allow us to have a lot more opportunity and how we're coming across to our potential clients, whether that be messaging, marketing, clarity, and with the confidence piece as well. And if you guys have any specific questions, you can use the chat. I have it open and we can go through those as we go along, okay? So is everybody ready? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're ready. I know it's late, guys, but like, let's be excited. This is going to be some good stuff. I love this stuff. I totally geek out on this, okay? So just a little bit about me. I won't go into too much detail here, but I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 30 years. I've had a product-based business that did over 250K in the second year of business. I've done business mentoring and business coaching for many years, and I also teach an e-course for energy healing certification. So I've been around the block a little bit, okay? I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 15, and I just turned 50. So I've had a little bit of experience. So that's all about me. That's all I'm gonna share. So let's talk a little bit about the messaging piece and the marketing piece of this. I did a whole bunch of audits, like close to 100 audits in the service-based business, primarily with hypnotherapists, VAs, social media strategists, and I found a very similar problem. So across the board, and primarily where hypnotherapists have a lot of opportunity is with their messaging. Most of the sites that I was going to, and I'm speaking directly to the websites that I audited, they were very confusing. There was no structure. There was, I'll give you an example. So, and this was on a multiple sites that I audited. I'd go onto the website and it would be, I help you with phobias, fears, spiders, water, heights, anxiety, peak performance, past lives. Like it was just this whole thing of just basically info vomit. Okay, it was way too much. What I recommend, if you're going to specialize in a multiple areas like that, if it's fears, you just put fears. And then just below that, if you'd like to outline a few that you really specialize in or that you had results in, then you can put a couple there. But you don't want to do a laundry list of, again, spiders, water, heights, all these. Just put fears and phobias. That's all you need. Okay, because the people landing to your website, if they're speaking to you, if they're coming to you, they know what their problem is. They don't need it outlined for them. That was a big, big problem because it was taking up a lot of prime real estate on websites when it wasn't super specific. You literally have 7 seconds to make an impression. 7 seconds. So if I land on your website, if I don't know exactly right away what's in it for me, like, right, I'm super all about me. It's me. It has nothing to do with you. The other thing I found is exactly that. I would go to websites and it would be, I have this credential and this and this and this and that. And it would literally be the whole homepage all about credentials and licensing and everything. And that stuff is great, but it belongs on the about page, not on your home page. It's totally okay to have a little blurb. It shows a little bit of authority, but really you want to look at it from the eyes of a prospect landing on your page. Again, you have 7 seconds to tell me what's in it for me. Why should I stay here? Look at your own buying pattern. When you land on a website, if you can't relate to that website, if you don't feel like there's something you can get from that website or from that person, what do? You jump off. You don't stay there. We've all got this info overload. So you want to make your website super user-friendly, super easy to navigate, and very clear. The other thing is that a lot of hypnotherapists made it very difficult to book a call. It was, fill out this form, tell me more about you, tell me more about how I can help you, tell me this, tell me that. Don't make me work. I'm not going to work for it. The only way the forms work really well is if you're teaching a master class or a webinar or something like that, and part of your approval process, right, because you are vetting who you're bringing into your practice or your services, that can be an application process. It's different if I'm going to your website and I want to stop smoking and you're making me jump through all these hoops. I'm just not going to do it. So make it super easy for potential customers to get a hold of you. Have set office hours. If you don't have an answering service or something like that, make it as easy as you can. Hey, shoot me a DM and we'll get you scheduled. Okay, if you don't have an auto scheduler would be best if you have specific office hours that you can say, you can separate it to different hours, like whether or not you take hours or 90 minutes, you can separate that and you can put a buffer in between. You can also allow your customers to make a payment too, which I highly encourage, because you will have less people not showing up. If I pay on your website at the same exact time I book, the likelihood of me not showing up is a lot less than whether or not I just book and then just my day gets busy and I just forget and I don't show up, and then you have a no-show, right? Anybody have any questions so far? Yes, no.
No.
I'm not sure if I have a question. I don't have an articulated question right now, but the thing about the form. So are you saying that essentially just have them book it and just answer and get information in the call rather than just like a form?
If you specialize in specific things, you know your craft. You should be confident in what it is you're promoting. I don't promote smoking cessation because that's not something I do. So people can't book me for that. But if somebody wants to book me for smoking cessation, they should be able to book me and me be confident in my ability to deliver that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I guess wouldn't you want to filter out? I guess you're saying that the marketing would filter it out. But
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Correct. If you're doing a high end, if you're doing a high ticket, if you have a 3-month program or something like that, then yes, you definitely want to do a little bit more vetting there. But if this is just an hourly session, like one and done, or even maybe 2 sessions or something like that, or you book a session and then you book the next session at the time that they're in the office before they leave, don't make booking hard. They will not stay. People aren't going to put that much effort and energy into a $47 or $150 one-time thing. They just won't. Now, if you're telling me to work with you for 3 months or 4 months or 6 months is going to cost me a 1K investment, 3K, 5K investment, I understand that. There's a bigger vetting process and you're going to be able to get more of my time, and I'm going to be okay filling out that form. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. The other thing is if you're doing any type of social media stuff, the same thing goes as your website. I should be able to jump on your social media and know exactly what's in it for me. Who you are, who you help, what's the benefit. And a lot of times I'm seeing things like, I help you channel your inner unicorn so you can, I don't know, tap into your wisdom or something. I have no idea what that is. What even is that? And so it's very important not to get really cute and creative with your I help statements and your bios and your profiles and all that. You got to make it super clear, super concise. So I wrote one down here. I help athletes master their mind so they can, whatever that result is, in consistent peak performance. So they can always perform with consistent peak performance, something like that. You see how super tangible that is? I can conceptualize that very easily. You specialize in working with athletes and you're going to help me be a peak performer, right? There's no unicorn and glitters and all this other stuff. And it's not, I help you overcome your mindset blocks so that you can have better energetic manifestation or something. Like it's too hard to conceptualize. So you've got to be very concise with your I help statements too and your bios, okay? Okay, so the other thing is that there's no clear call to action. So if I jump onto your website, or if I go onto your Instagram, or wherever you're at, LinkedIn, whatever you're at, is there a way for me to work with you further, or is there a way for you to capture my email? I'm sure you guys have probably heard this. You don't own any social media platforms. You don't own Facebook. You don't own, Twitter, YouTube. You don't own any of those. So if you don't have a free opt-in to get people who are landing on your website or landing on your social media posts to convert them and get them on your own email list, that's a problem. You're leaving money on the table. You have no way to follow up with those clients. Even if you only deal locally and you have clients coming into your office, the very first thing you should do is get their email list. Not their email list, get their email. Because you need to start building out your own email list in order to continue to target market those people. And just because somebody's been with you as a client one time, that doesn't mean they won't come back, especially with hypnotherapy. A lot of times hypnotherapists think that it's a one and done type of thing. It's not. If you prove your value, you prove your worth, and you're offering a special or a promo or something like that, you can actually promote that to your list. But you can't do that if you don't have that information captured. So one of the things I recommend highly is having some type of a freebie. This doesn't need to be complicated. A freebie should be something that is very easy for people to consume. We're talking 1-2 pages, 3 at the absolute max. And it could speak to the very next step of solving their problem. So if we look at smoking cessation, okay, we could say these are 111 ways why you should stop smoking, or 111 ways of the benefits of if you stop smoking. Wow, if I'm a smoker, yeah, I want to know more about that. And it's better if you put it in a positive light versus a negative light. It tends to convert better. If you use weird numbers, like if you say 88 ways or 7 ways, as soon as you hit on numbers like 5 or 10 or 15 or 30, it doesn't interrupt the subconscious mind as much as it does if you use a weird number, because it plays a role in the mind. It's like, oh, wait, tell me more about this. It kind of confuses the mind. So a freebie for sure. You want to have some type of an email capture. So if you have a freebie, they get on your email list. You're going to need a MailChimp is free. They have a free version. So if you're just starting out, I recommend going with MailChimp. Super easy to do. Doesn't have to be complicated. I have Active Campaign, but it's very funnelized. And so I can retarget, target, send out autoresponders and all that. That's way more complex. But a simple one to start out with is MailChimp. Okay. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So the other thing that we have to look at is in our context, in the things that we're posting on social media, we have different buyers. And what I see a lot is people tend to put content out to reach the buyers that they are. Okay. So I'm an emotional buyer. Sometimes I'm a fast emotional buyer. Sometimes I'm a slow emotional buyer. But how I buy is I want a direct connection with the person I'm purchasing from. I feel through intuition. Obviously, I do energy healing. And it's more intimate for me. Like I want to know the person. I want to relate to the person, relate to their lifestyle, relate to their story. That's an emotional buyer. You also have intellectual buyers. You have fast intellectuals and slow intellectuals. Intellectual buyers are more data driven. They want the return on their investment. They want to see the social proof. They want to know all of the statistics. Okay. So in your social media strategy, if you're posting on social media, and this can even be done on your website or through your emails when you're reaching out to people, the stories that you relate to should speak to all of those buyers. If you don't, then you're totally targeting one segment. And again, you're leaving a lot of people out for that. So don't be afraid to add statistics in there. Don't be afraid to add social proof, return on investment. When I say return on investment, if we're going back to the smoking client, it's what is this costing you monetarily? This is the difference. This is going to be super important for you guys to kind of get this. If I'm speaking to a smoker who wants to stop, my messaging for an intellectual is going to be, how much money is this costing you? Right? If I'm speaking to an emotional, it's going to be, how is this helping you or hurting you showing up for your family? What's it doing to your health? Don't you see the damage that you can cause because your lifespan is now shortened? Okay. So those are the two different types of buyers that you really need to speak to when you're doing your messaging and your marketing. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Any questions? You guys have like no questions. Where's the questions? You guys just like,
okay, I'll give you one.
I'm either really, really good or it's really late and you guys are tired. Like,
I'll break the ice.
okay.
All right, you ready? All right, I plan to do smoke and I'm a retired respiratory therapist. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
All right. So, but what I'm planning on, the major focus of mine is going to be with the terminally ill and cancer. Okay.
Yep.
I do Reiki. I do the whole 9 yards. I've been getting some good advice from another one of the students from Barat. I was hoping he would be here tonight, but he's tied up. And but I'm just now starting, and I'm fixing to be doing my web page over. That's why I wanted to hear you last week, but I heard you got kind of messed up. But you're here now. So I'm looking for different ways to go about this, and before I start in on my web page this week, I'm trying to get it, and Michael's helped me so much. So
Awesome.
But how would you go about, because I'm not going to really try to we're going to say the word gig people for money because they're already in a stressful situation. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to try to find out is a way to do this and still make money, but not put them in a financial bind. Because where I live, you're either dirt poor or you could buy God. Okay.
For sure.
So I just don't know. So I'm just trying to find out a price index and things like that for these. Does that give you anything to work with?
Absolutely. So let's talk pricing. Who knows how to do market research? Okay, that's a big problem. Big problem. Okay. And it's across the board. Okay. I coach people daily on this. They don't know how to do market research. Any big company, any small company, they all do market research. The reason they do market research is, why are we guessing? The market should decide what we're pricing, what we're offering, how much they're willing to pay, the transformation that they want. The market should decide. Otherwise, we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. I'm just pulling something out of my butt basically and saying, I'm going to put that out there and see if I get buyers. The other way is, let's create an offer. Let's do some market research. Let's validate that offer. Then once we have the offer validated and tweaked and fine-tuned to where we are just super confident that we can sell it, it's priced perfectly for our audience, then we can sell it with confidence and clarity. If we don't have the confidence and the clarity, it's much, much harder to sell. But we only get that confidence and clarity by doing market research. There's a few different ways you can do market research. You can poll your audience. You can send out an email, things I'm not a big fan of because people tend to not reply, or when they do reply, it's not meaty enough. It's like, oh, yes, no, maybe, like it's just not a lot. I can send out, or I can include it in the group. There's a marketing script that I share with my clients. I recommend you get on a call. You look for your target audience. You say, hey, there's specific questions that you ask. This is what I'm looking to offer. This is how I'm looking to solve that problem. If you had a magic wand, what would you like to see? And this is what I'm thinking about offering it. What are your thoughts on that? The market will tell you, because every single market is going to be different. So I can tell you, hey, I would charge $47 for that. No problem. But in your market research, you're going to find that people will pay $297, or you'll find that people won't want to pay any more than $29. That's the reason why nobody can tell you what to charge. Nobody. I don't care who they are. They can't say, they can give you a starting point and say, hey, this is the range. But then how do we know that that's the range for your market and for your area of specialty? You don't. You have to do the market research. Big companies like Wells Fargo. I actually was involved in a market research for Wells Fargo. They got 50 of us into a room and they asked very direct questions about them, their competitors, what we would do, what we wouldn't do, what we liked, what we didn't like. Every single corporation, small companies, big companies, invest millions of dollars into market research. It's the one thing that solopreneurs and entrepreneurs do not do because they don't know how to do it. And that will kill you every time, because we're just basically, again, throwing spaghetti at the wall. We're hoping something sticks. So what I would do is I will post the market research script for you guys to follow. It literally is exactly, it will walk you through, ask this, ask that. Couple things to keep in mind when you're doing market research. The more targeted your audience is, the more valuable the feedback. Okay. So I worked with several clients on this to where they were like, hey, so I did a couple of market research calls and they said my price is too high, or that I need to be including this, this, and this, and this. Okay. So were they your target audience? Well, kind of. They're part of my target audience. They're females. Okay, but that's not specific enough. So you have to take your market research with a grain of salt, depending on who it is that you're asking these questions to. Okay, so if my target audience is women and I do a whole bunch of market research with men, then it's good feedback, but that's not my target audience. So that information I need to take with a grain of salt because it's not directly connected to who I serve. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
Yes.
So I had another one, another client who did 3 market research calls and said, I'm totally confused. They want me to include this, this, and this. I don't want to include that. Like, what should I do? One says do this, one says do that. Here's the thing about market research. Ultimately, it's your business. You get to decide how much you charge. You get to decide who you work with. The market research is just data. It's not telling you concrete, do this or do that. It's just data. I did a market research call and somebody had said, because I do them all the time, somebody had said, you know what, I really like the fast action bonuses. If you were to give me a fast action bonus when you offer this 6-month container, I would totally take you up on it and I would sign up like right now because I love what you offer. The very next market research call, I included that. I said, and I'll be offering a fast action bonus. The client was like, oh, I hate that. I feel pressured. I want time to think about it. So what does that tell me about her? She's an emotional slow. She needs time to think about it. She needs time to digest it. She needs to talk to her husband. She needs to meditate on it. Okay. So she's a slow emotional. The other one was a fast emotional. You guys see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the feedback that I got from her, she's like, oh, I hate it. I don't like it. I can't stand it, you know, whatever. So the next 4 market research calls, I didn't bring it up at all. For this particular container that I was offering, it was a 6-month program. I didn't bring it up at all. I said, this is what I'm thinking about offering. This is the price point. What do you think? Oh my gosh, hell yes. Like, I'm so interested. Like, tell me more. You want to keep doing your market research calls until you get to that point. You tweak things, you fine tune things. You're like, I'm thinking about offering, Voxer support for a day. I'm thinking about offering, 3 sessions to help you get over this. I'm doing a 6-month protocol for you for this particular problem. Like, you need to know your market. And the only way to know your market is the market research calls. But again, take them with a grain of salt. Ultimately, you're the business owner. You get to make those decisions. You need to feel aligned and congruent with what it is you're offering, not let the market dictate 100% of your business, because you will burn out. I've seen it a million times. You will burn out because you're no longer passionate about it, because again, you're being fed from the outside. Just keep it as data and tweak it accordingly. Okay. So in my particular example, I kept tweaking things. They were like, well, I really would love this support, or no, I really don't like that. And I kept tweaking and tweaking and tweaking to where in the end, I literally had people saying, hell yes, where do I sign up? Or where's your wait list? And that's what you want. But the only way to get there is market research. Does everybody get that? Questions on market research?
Okay, how would you start? Like, if you're going after a client that's, let's just say in hospice, okay? Would I go to like the hospice company that's taking care of that client, that patient?
No. Who makes the end decision? Who's going to decide to hire
The family
you?
does that.
Family then.
Yes.
The family is going to be your market research.
Okay. Because we do have a hospice hospital down here. Okay. So I was wondering, would I go approach them?
No.
No. Okay.
No, my opinion is no. And the reason why is because they're not paying the bill. Your
Okay.
data is going to be skewed. They're going to go off their perceptions of what they think your client needs. Your client will tell you what they need. It's almost like the equivalent of me doing business coaching and going into a UPS store and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about offering on a one-on-one basis. What are your thoughts? It's not my target market. Now, if you were offering a service directly to hospice and they were the ones contracting through you, absolutely 1,000%, that would be your target market for your research.
Well, the reason why I put it that way is a lot of the hypnotherapists work in California at different hospice places, or rehab centers and stuff like that. Like Joe Tabanella, he works at one. Michelle Guzzi, she used to. So I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but they all worked kind of at a rehab center. I think Cheryl O'Neill also did the same thing in group sessions.
Yeah.
So
it's who pays the bill ultimately.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you'd like, just for, your research purposes, speak to them and say, this is what I'm thinking about offering. What are your thoughts around that? What has been your experience? How do you think the family, if you want to keep it in that context and just use it as data, further data. But for me, I always recommend going to whoever's paying the bill.
Then I'll ask you this. I have doctors down here referring to me now.
Yeah.
Okay. So would they be a target market?
Absolutely. If they're doing the referrals. Yeah, because
okay.
Even though they're not paying the bills, they're going to be referring you out. So it's a little bit of a different context. Now, if hospice is going to be referring you to the clients, then that's a different story. Then yeah, you're going to want to get some of that feedback because you want their buy-in to be able to refer you out.
Okay, thank you. That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering how to approach that, and I didn't know if I just walk in the door and cold call or how I would do it, but I'm getting everything lined up where I can do that.
Now, here's the thing with market research too, is the very first one that you do is going to be uncomfortable. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's very counterintuitive. It's like not easy. And I 30 years experience doing this. The first one is a little janky. Okay. So just follow the script that I give you. It literally walk you step by step. Let the client know, say, hey, I'm just doing market research. I'm not going to pitch you anything. I'm not going to sell you anything. And in exchange for your time, I understand your time is valuable. How about I send you a $5 Starbucks card? Okay. And that's what I do. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get people on the phone to do market research. If, again, what am I? I'm selfish. What's in it for me? Sure, I'll give you that data, but what's in it for me? My time is valuable too. Okay. The reason a Starbucks gift card is if you give me a Target card, what can I buy for $5?
Nothing.
Nothing. If you give me a $5 Amazon card, what can I buy? I might be able to put the $5 towards something I buy. Starbucks is very tangible. Smoothie places are very tangible. I get a complete product for the $5. I get a coffee, I get a smoothie, right? It's a no-brainer for me. It's something free. If you want to do, you know, a $5 gift card to Chick-fil-A or something like that, that's fine. But just make sure whatever you're offering is something of value that somebody can see that very visual exchange. It's not something, well, what am I going to get at Target for $5? Like that doesn't do me any good. Okay. It's all making sense. Is it all good? Are you guys enjoying this?
Yes.
I am. Thank you.
So the other thing that I hear a lot is, and this is a big peeve of mine, is you will have marketers say, you need to sell high ticket. The only way to do your offer is high ticket. You need to do several sessions, not one-on-one sessions. You need to sell through webinars or master classes, or you need to have something in addition to the one-on-one service, maybe a group program, maybe this, maybe that. Like, let's do all these different ways. What you'll hear them say is their way. They will say, and I literally bring this up because just 2 weeks ago, I ran into this over several days. And I think it was one of those things to where as soon as energetically you see like a red car, visualize a red car, all of a sudden everybody else has got a red car. So I heard podcasts on this that week. I watched 2 webinars on this that week, and it was crazy. So I was in a Facebook group and the person was like, you have to sell high ticket. There's no other way about it. You have to sell high ticket. If you are not selling high ticket, if you're not selling a 3-month or 6-month program, it takes just as much time, effort, energy to sell a $150 session as it does a 3K session. Why are you doing that? Sell only high ticket. The very next day, got on a webinar training and somebody says, oh, low ticket all the way. You want to meet the customers where they are. You want to have a value ladder. You want to have your freebie, then you want to have the next thing for say $47, then the next thing, then the next thing, and you want to keep upselling them on this value ladder. Okay. Then I had somebody say, you want a hybrid, have a hybrid. You want to have a low value offers and you want to have this high ticket offer. It was just a mungled mess. It does not matter. It doesn't matter. You can sell. I have seen everything across the board. I've seen people do 6 figures with low ticket items. I've seen people do 6 figures with high ticket items. I've seen people do 6 and 8 figures with hybrid offers. It doesn't matter. Do what's aligned with you and your energy. Okay. That's like a rant of mine because so many new entrepreneurs get stuck on there. They're like, well, so-and-so says I should do this. Now I got to switch my whole business model around and do what they said. No, it works all the different ways. Okay. You just have to dial in your process. Okay. So let's talk about your processes. As a business owner, you should be focused on revenue generating activities daily. This is what you're getting scatterbrained on. And I'm speaking from years of experience. Let's mess with our logo. Let's mess with our website. Let's mess with this graphic to go on social media. Is any of that driving revenue? No, none of it. But we get stuck in this squirrel mindset of collecting nuts and information and just busy, but none of that is driving revenue. The only way your business is sustainable and the only way for it to grow long-term is what? Revenue. Every business needs revenue. So then why are we so focused on all these mundane things? It's because it's easy. It's easy to get lost in a logo and then see the end result. It's very easy to get lost in copy on your website and see the finished product. It's not so easy to do revenue generating activities and reach out to 100 people a day. And maybe after 2 weeks, you start seeing some momentum and you get 3 people following up with you. That's hard, right? And when I say that's hard, where does that hard come in? What do you guys think? Where do you think that comes in from? Why do we assume that it's hard? You're all hypnotherapists. It's what?
Subconscious mind.
It's just a belief. That's all it is. So if you shift that belief to, hey, I'm a profitable business and I focus on revenue generating activities every day, and it's fun, maybe not 100% fun, but if you just shift that paradigm and flip your mindset around it being hard to, hey, this is just part of the process. And don't assign meaning to it. Meaning that if somebody doesn't reach out to you, it doesn't mean you suck. It doesn't mean that you're not valuable or that you don't know what you're doing. It just means it's not the right time for them right now. That's all that means. So that's the other thing that I see a lot is people assign their own belief systems and their own belief patterns to a situation. And it's simply not true. So as an entrepreneur, you find a problem, solve a problem. That's it. You find a problem, solve a problem. It really comes down to that. If you find a problem and you solve that problem, you get paid for solving that problem, there's your revenue. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So a lot of entrepreneurs start getting, I don't want to say negative feedback, but they don't get people reaching out into the DMs and replying back, or they don't have success with one way or something. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. Like this just isn't working. Or no, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to build those muscles. So what I recommend is if you're doing any type of organic outreach, which is something I do and I teach, if you do organic outreach and you come back to me and say, hey, I tried that strategy, it didn't work. And I say, well, how long have you tried it? Well, I tried it every day for like 4 days. It's a numbers game. It is a numbers game. So until you have reached out to 100 people over the course of 3 months, I'm going to say you haven't given it long enough. You just haven't. Like it takes a while to start building that authority. So when people land on your profiles, they see you as the authority. It's not going to happen overnight. This takes months to develop. Oh. Then people will start replying back to you. So you've got to be in it for the long haul. This isn't a short-term thing. You've got to set a strategy up for the long haul. So when you're doing this, I recommend that you have systems and processes in place. So what is your one system, not 3 or 4, one system for getting leads? If you're not getting leads, how can you get clients? They just fall out of the sky, maybe, if we're lucky, right? So you have to find a way to get leads, which goes back to what I was talking about. The way to get leads is offer me a freebie. You want my email list? You better give me something of value. That's prime to me. People are more and more protective of their email list now than ever. And if you want my email, give me something of value. Give me something I want. Then when you create something that I want, don't make it so hard. I once saw a freebie that was a 58-page PDF. Now, unless I know it's a book that I'm purchasing, that is not a freebie. It needs to be easily digestible and create a quick win for me. Okay, so that is where that exchange comes in. That's where the lead comes in. How are you getting your leads? One way to get leads. Once you get a lead, what is your one way of getting sales? One way of conversions. You have your system dialed in, then you tweak it as you go. If one little piece of that isn't working, if I reach out to the DMs and I say, hey, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for the follow. I really appreciate it. By the way, love the purse. It's adorable. Where'd you get it? I'm creating a conversation. Okay. Hey, so I noticed you're in this business. What is your top 3 goals this year for your business? It's this, this, and this. That sounds awesome. So what do you think is keeping you from reaching that goal right now? Well, I don't have this, this, and this in place. Yeah, I totally get that. Have you ever thought about working with a coach? No, I really haven't. Well, would you like to jump on a call? I'm more happy to chat with you and see how I can help you reach those goals. If there's one step in that process that isn't converting or it drops off, if as soon as I say, hey, tell me about what are your 3 top goals for your business, and nobody ever gets back to me, then I know that that's the question I need to tweak. It's not my full process. It's that one piece of the pie. It's that one piece of the process that I'm dropping people off. I just tweak that one thing, not my entire process. What I see is people see that it's not working, so they create this whole other thing instead of finding the problem, solve the problem, find a problem, solve the problem. What is the problem? The problem is my DMs are not converting. And it's this piece of the DMs. It's not the whole thing. So let's fix that piece. It's like A/B testing. If you guys are familiar with A/B testing, right? You always want to test against the one that's working really, really well. You don't change everything. You change 1 or 2 things, the color, the headline, the hook. You don't change everything. And that's another big problem is people, if their sales strategies aren't working, they scratch the whole thing and start all over again. And it's just, you're just creating way more headache for yourself. Is that all making sense? Is that helpful? I'm like rambling on. I want to make sure that this is good information. Any questions so far? That was a lot.
I'm just now hitting 501, so we're just now starting. I'm just now getting my practice up. So I have no clue on the marketing side and all this. So this is helping me a lot. I mean, like Gene was already talking about having clients, and I live in Podunk, Oklahoma, and it's like and the people I have talked to, they're like, well, you know, when I start talking to them, I tell them that I'm planning to charge $100 a session, and they're like, $100, you know, and I'm like, hey, I think, you know, I've talked to some other classmates and they're going 150, 200 starting out.
Yep.
And, you know, I thought 100 and then maybe go up as I, you know, progress and build up. But these people act like that I'm asking them for their firstborn or something.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I think it'd be a great conversation. So when you have clients that are, you know, kind of like frowning on what you're charging, you're not speaking enough to the benefits. What's in it for them? The bigger the problem, the bigger you can charge, the bigger they'll pay, the more they'll pay. If you're telling me you're going to solve a problem like, hey, I'm going to help you lose 5 pounds. Okay, I might pay $100 for that. It's 5 pounds. I'm going to gain it back in a week, right? I'm going through menopause, so I will gain it back in a week. If you tell me I'm going to teach you how to lose 20 pounds and keep it off for the rest of your life, you better bet your ass I'm going to pay $1,000 for that. If that's a big enough problem for me, now I'm not saying everybody will pay that, but if I'm your target market and that's a bigger problem, I'm going to pay more for it. If you're talking to somebody about smoking cessation and you say, hey, I'm going to help you quit smoking and I'm going to charge you $100 a session and it's going to take 3 sessions. They're like, $300? I'm not paying that. That's crazy. You're not highlighting the benefits and the results. If you highlight the benefits and the results and you say, hey, you know what? In 3 sessions, I'm going to make sure that you never want to pick up a cigarette again. You're going to be saving $500 a month because that's how much you're spending on cigarettes. You're never going to have to worry about cravings. And guess what? You're going to be so much healthier. You're not going to end up spending that money later on healthcare costs. You're going to be longer for your family. You're going to be around longer. You speak to me in that language, $300 is nothing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's way better.
Okay, cool. So I see that a lot, is that a lot of solopreneurs have a really hard time highlighting the benefits. It's very much like, well, I'm going to do energy healing for you, or I do Reiki, or, you know, I'm going to help you overcome your anxiety. Go deeper. What does that mean for me? If you're going to help me overcome my anxiety, what does that mean for me? Well, you'll be able to leave your house without stress. You're going to be able to go out in public and have more social life. You're going to be able to work a job that you love without getting the shakes every day at lunch because you've got so much anxiety built up. Okay, so go deeper. It goes back to almost like asking why. If you guys are familiar with that, when you ask a 5-year-old why, again, go deep, 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 deep. The deeper you can get to the root cause, the more emotion you can put behind that, the better the chance is that I'm going to buy. Because what do people do? They buy for emotion and they justify for logic, right? So the more you can hit my emotional buttons, and this goes back to whether I'm an emotional or I'm an intellectual. People still buy based on emotions. It doesn't matter which one you are. They're going to buy based on emotions. It's just the intellectuals look at more of the data. But people still buy for emotions and they justify with logic. So if I buy from emotions and you know that, pull that out. Get me to have an emotional investment with what it is you're about to offer me. Okay. Okay. So
Got a quick one for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, that spurred me to ask another question.
Yeah.
Down here, he said he's in wherever I forgot. I'm in Covington, Georgia.
Okay.
Okay. They do a lot. Tyler Perry Studios has a studio over here for the actors. They do a lot of filming down here. And a lot of the big names come in down here to be in movies and stuff like that. They do a lot. And then I've got how would you market that?
Clarify, because I'm still on the
How would
hospital.
you get in? How would you get it to where, what approach would you take to like get in with those type of people to work with the actors?
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Katy Perry says she thanks her hypnotherapist in her song. So how would you go about that?
So the first thing I would do is I would write my dream list of 100.
Okay.
So you want to write a dream list of 100 people that you either have direct connection with, that could have connections with them, or indirect connections with them. All you need is one name. So one of the clients had a friend from school that had another friend who had a spouse that worked for a magazine. So she reached out to this friend and said, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Do you have any connections? The friend was like, well, yeah, I have this other friend who knows this other person. Let me reach out to them, see if I can put you in contact. The other friend contacted the other person. So you want to follow that chain. So if you write down a dream 100 list,
okay,
and start reaching out to those people one by one and seeing how you can get directly connected to them. And then once you get that in, then that's basically you're in, that's your door.
right. Because that studio is not 5 miles from my office.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I mean, that's what I would do, because I don't know what their security looks like and all that kind of stuff. If it wasn't, actors and actresses and stuff like that, if it was more approachable people, I would have a different methodology that I would tell you. But because of how harder they are to infiltrate, so to speak, that's the approach that I would take.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Gene,
Yes.
tell you what I did here in Oklahoma City. Prairie Surf Media has just come in. There are a bunch of Hollywood producers that just bought our convention center, and they are setting up, they've got all kind of actors and stuff, basically exactly like you're saying. Yeah. What I did is I went on Facebook and looked up and found out who the executives are at Prairie Surf. And I sent them a direct message explaining to them that I'm a hypnotherapist, what benefits that, I can provide for the actors. I also kind of threw out HMI, Florence Henderson. I kind of leaned on that and just kind of told them, where I went to school, how I was connected through our instructors to the actors and stuff. And they reached right back out to me and send me all of your contact information, everything. So I sent them some business cards and flyers and everything. And they told me that they would put me in their database. I haven't heard anything at this point, but at least I'm there. So you might try that too.
I will try that. Thank you.
So let's talk about that process, because you can use that same process in posts. in like Instagram posts or Facebook posts. So it's an authority post. So what you do is you connect yourself in some way, shape, or form to an authority. So I can hold up a book. I've never been interviewed by Russell Brunson. I've never been, nothing. I'm an affiliate with ClickFunnels, and I know a lot of people in that circle and stuff, but I can hold this book up and say, I read this book and it's by Russell Brunson. What did I do? I name dropped and I associated myself with Russell Brunson. So in a post, I could take a picture of like this or an open boxing or something like that. And I can do an authority post, tie myself to an authority figure, and that increases my authority. This is why I'm a good business coach, because this is what he says in here. And this is what I learned from this. And now this is what I teach my clients. You never want to bash somebody. You never want to go on here and say, you know what? I read this book and I disagree. You don't ever want to do that. It's bad PR. Okay. If you're going to lean on or lean into somebody else's profile as an authority and attach yourself to that authority, it should all be positive. Okay. The other thing that this does is, what can I do? Do you guys know what I can do to make sure that he sees that I have given him this positive kudos on this book? How do I get his people's eyes on the fact that I'm promoting his book? Say it.
Hashtag.
That's you could try that, but that's a lot harder. But good try. You tag him. You tag him in the post.
Oh.
You just put at Russell Brunson or at ClickFunnels or at whatever, and their people see it. And what do? They share it to their audience. So now I'm being in front of their audience just by me saying, hey, look at this cool book.
Question.
Yep.
Do you know Dr. Raymond Moody? Ever heard of him?
Yes, I have. I don't remember where, but I know his name.
I know him. Could I do something and use him as a tag or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. If you say something about him, if you have a picture of you and him together and say, you know what, the highlight of my career was when I met this person or when I spoke with this person on the phone, or.
He's the one that got me into hypnotherapy.
Okay.
And
so you can say, because of this person, I went through hypnotherapy, and tag him in it and say, I credit, this pivotal moment in my life, making this decision to this person, because without reading his book or speaking to him or whatever, I appreciate him. I value him. Again, make it positive.
Well, good. If I called Raymond and had him do something, is that a positive thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can work with him any way you want to make it like share, he can share your story with his audience or vice versa. I recently did this with the podcast.
Because I've noticed he's tagged me in several of his posts.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because you're now being introduced to his audience.
That'll work. Thank you. You're making my night. You keep going.
I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good at this. I do it all day long. So the other thing is, you can do the same thing with the podcast. Okay, I recently did this with the podcast. I screenshotted the podcast. I put it in my stories, and I said, hey, you guys, if you are struggling with you've got to check out this podcast. And what I do, I tag the host and the interviewee. What does that do? They both shared me with their audience. That's an easy way to grow your own audience by leveraging somebody else's audience, and it's free.
So smart.
Do you have a question?
It's really smart.
Yeah. Okay, so very good. The other thing that you can do is anybody doing reels or stories on Instagram?
Planning to eventually.
Okay, so a couple of pro tips, because reels right now are on fire. I got over 1,000 views within 24 hours on one reel. Guess what I did? That's all I did. There was no captions. There was no nothing. It was just the voiceover and me going. and I got over 1,000 views in 24 hours. Okay. So what you can do on Reels is you can add
Sorry,
stickers to
I don't
Reels.
know what a reel is.
Okay, I'll share with you. You can
Okay.
add stickers to Reels and hide them, hide the tags underneath the stickers. That's a ninja trick. So say I want to tag Russell Brunson and I'm doing a reel. Say I'm doing a reel and I'm like, hey, I've got this book and I'm just doing this like reel thing. I can take a sticker, say a smiley emoji. Underneath the sticker, I'm tagging him. So nobody that watches my reels knows that I'm tagging him, but yet he'll still get notified. So it's basically like, okay, I have my picture. I put at Russell Brunson and I type it out and he shows up there. I make it really, really, really small so nobody can see it. And I put a smiley emoji over it. It tags him without my audience knowing I'm tagging him. Okay. That's when you get more into Reels. Okay, so Reels. Reels are if YouTube and Instagram had a baby, I guess. Okay, so if you go to Instagram, this middle bar, let me get on mine. This is Reels. See the movie theater icon? It's the movie icon. Okay, you click on Reels and they're little short video clips. If you've never seen that, go to your Instagram, click on Reels.
Is it like TikTok?
Yep, it's like TikTok for Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Very similar.
Do you-
Yeah, very similar.
Do you leverage TikTok as well for business?
I personally do not, because here's the thing. You should not be on more than 3 platforms max. The reason why is because the more you spread yourself out there, the less effective you're going to be. Okay, so I do Instagram and Facebook primarily, and I'm trying to decide if I want to keep doing YouTube or doing a podcast. But right now I just do Facebook and Instagram. I don't tweet, or I'm not a Twitter fan at all. I don't do LinkedIn, which, I mean, there's a lot of people who do very well with LinkedIn, especially in the professional community, but it's just not my thing. I'm just not a fan of it personally. I do a little bit of Pinterest, but it's not primarily my thing. My things are Facebook and Instagram. Those are the 2 areas that I primarily focus on. So the other thing that you want to do is, where's your audience? So when you're saying TikTok, is your audience there? Well, why are we doing TikTok if your audience isn't there? So no, go where your audience is. Again, it's one of the things where your audience should dictate where you're spending your time. My audience is on Facebook and Instagram. My audience doesn't tweet very often. My audience doesn't LinkedIn very often. Okay. Is all that good?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have a question. If so, Robbie and I were just starting 501. Obviously, we're going to be doing free sessions, but is there anything? I mean, do we start branding right now? Should we be branding Hypnosis specifically?
So that's going to be dependent on the services that you provide. Because what I recommend is you do a few of them, get them underneath your belt, get some experience. Because what you'll find is you'll start gravitating towards something specific that you enjoy doing. So if you brand yourself as a person that does, anxiety or near death or something like that, you do a few of those and you cannot stand it, it's really hard to rebrand. So what I recommend is you do a few of them, kind of find your sweet spot and start gradually pivoting that direction. And then the more that you do, the more clarity that you'll have. Then once you get really clear on who you want to help, your ideal audience and all that kind of stuff, then you can really go deep into like the branding, the messaging, your voice, more brand strategy stuff. And you can get really into that. But I do recommend you get a little bit of experience behind you first before you just go all into branding. Otherwise, you will literally start all over again. Seen it happen a million times. People will put like $5,000 into a website and branding and a logo and all this. And literally 6 months later, they're rebranding because it's not aligned with them anymore. You will have that a little bit, maybe after a couple years, 3 years, when you outgrow your branding style or you're going through, you know, trends or pivots and stuff like that, but it shouldn't be that fast. You should get some experience first. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, first, like I've already figured out that my two target areas is I want to specialize in weight loss. And then the other is hypnosis for seniors, because I really do like working with senior population stuff. I've done that in the medical side of it before.
Sure.
I have no earthly idea how to target my audience on the seniors. I mean, I took the certification class, but it wasn't specific enough for me to really pick out how to market it. But the main thing I want to talk to you is, can you tell me more about podcasting? Because here in Oklahoma, I have no clue. And I've got some people that tell me they want me to come do a podcast on hypnosis for them, so that to explain it to their group, their audience. And I told them, I said, I will, but I said, I have no clue what a podcast is, how to do it, anything. We're backwards Okies here.
It's all good because I know so much about a lot that it's kind of scary. Just because this is my happy zone. I'm very happy here. So podcasting is not a big deal. So basically it's like a radio interview. You can do it distance. So when I do podcast interviews, basically the host will contact me, and it can be a visual thing or it can just be a voice thing, and they'll just ask you questions. And the nice thing about that is most podcasts are not live. They go through an editing process. So if you stumble across your words a little bit, or if you fumble or whatever, they can typically edit that stuff out before they put it out to their audience. The biggest thing about podcasting is what I see is people are like, oh, I'm going to go on an interview and be on a podcast and stuff, when they have no clear call to action for the people listening. So you go on a podcast and you're like, hey, this is who I am. This is why I believe in hypnotherapy. This is where it can help you. This is great. Da, 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 da. And at the end, they're like, well, how can we find you? Oh, just connect with me on Instagram. That's kind of lame. Yeah, I can connect with you on Instagram, but what is a stronger call to action that you can have? What is something that you can provide to their audience to, again, capture their email? It's great to share your social media platforms. Don't get me wrong. That's wonderful, because hopefully that they'll be bought in and become part of your community and follow you for a while and build some rapport, because rapport is super important. Before you typically convert a client, there has to be some rapport, especially in this day and age where everybody's being taken advantage of. Rapport is huge. If you're ever doing sales call, that's the number one thing on a sales call, is you have to spend at least a good 3 to 5 minutes beforehand building some type of a rapport before you do any Q&As, before you go into any type of strategy or pitch or anything. Rapport always comes first. So you're building the rapport on the podcast, but then it comes, what is the next call to action? What is the easiest next best step for me to work with you? You know what? So I've talked all about how weight loss is and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, if you'd like some more information, feel free to jump on my website, and I'm giving you a free PDF. It's a 3-page PDF on how you can start the process of pivoting your mindset towards weight loss. Go on my website, and I'm going to give you my 3-step process in overcoming subconscious sabotage towards weight loss. Do you see how that is a clear call to action? If you just say, well, follow me on Instagram. Okay, I'm going to follow you. I don't know if I'll ever see your post again. But if you're saying, hey, go to my website, pick up this download. I have this amazing freebie for you. Oh, heck yeah. Now I'm on your list that you own versus social media where you don't own. Then you can keep targeting me if you have specials or promos or you're sending out emails and stuff like that, you can keep warming me up to potentially working with you. It takes somebody between 7 and, now the jury's still out on this, but typically it's 7 to 21 times that somebody has to hear your message before they sign up with you. So if we think about that, 7 to 21 times, and all our messaging is targeting emotionals and never intellectuals, and we're sending all of these messages out, and we're leaving half of our audience out, then you just cut your chances in half of reaching everybody that you're sending this email out to, right? That's the reason why there's like a big picture involved here, intellectuals and emotionals, and making sure that we have them on our email list so that we can keep nurturing them through the process. And this is why I say, if you try a strategy, a sales strategy, and it doesn't work for 30 days, you're not going to get any sympathy from me, my friend. Don't really care. You haven't tried it long enough. If you have an audience of 500 people and you post once a week, how many times is that audience going to see your post? Maybe once every 3 months. And what did we just learn? It takes 7 to 21 times for somebody to hear your message and build that rapport before they buy. Is all this making sense? Cool. So let's talk about some freebies that you can offer that are really easy to create. I always recommend setting a timer for no more than an hour. If you guys are taking more than an hour to max on a freebie, it goes back to that squirrel mind. You're working on something other than revenue. Eventually, this will become part of your sales process and your revenue cycle, but let's not allow it to eat up all of our time so that we're not focused on revenue. Because I've seen students spend 2 weeks on this, and it's just a freebie. That's all it is. What do we know about freebies? We know that 80% of the people that sign up to your freebie will not read it. That's just fact. How many freebies have you signed up to? You have all the intentions in the world of reading it, and it goes into Never Never Land in your email box. And you're like, I'll get back to it when. Michael, I see you laughing. You sign up to a lot of freebies, are you? You have like an email abyss going? Yeah, right? Well, part of what I do is I work with entrepreneurial avatars, and that is kind of like energy and metaphysics stuff that I do. And part of the reason hypnotherapists in general and multi-passionate creatives struggle with this piece of it is your avatar is typically directly connected to a squirrel or a monkey. We're just always all over the place. We're so creative. And I say we because I'm putting myself in that bucket as well. I totally get it. But once you learn how to hyper focus, you can overcome those, because it's not a crutch. It's just something that can be actually leveraged to your benefit if you know how to work within that realm. So that's why I always say set a timer, because especially if you're a hyper creative, you're a hypnotherapist, typically most of them are hyper creatives, you're going to get locked into that. Oh, I've got to make it perfect. I've got to make it pretty. And 2 months later, you're still working on a freebie. I've seen it happen so many times. So freebies, you can do a masterclass. So if you're into PowerPoint or Canva or something like that, you can do a masterclass on theory of mind and different things and why it's important and how you can help this certain segment of your audience overcome certain things and how the process works. We want to educate them enough to edify them without giving them the how. It's the what and the why without the how, because you want them to get off thinking, oh my gosh, I want more. If you throw the whole kitchen sink at them, they're like, oh, well, I could probably work on this on my own. If I do a little bit deeper meditation, we don't want that. Okay. That's for a masterclass. You can do checklists. You can do a 3-page PDF. You can do my 5 steps too, my 7 steps process too, kind of anything like that. Numbers are really good. So if you're incorporating numbers in that, it works really well. These also work really good for hook headlines for emails. Okay, if it has a number in it or an emoji in it, they tend to get attention more and they tend to be opened up more. So you definitely want to be including as part of the authority piece in this. Now we talked about the emails and creating a freebie. So what's next? You create a freebie, you get somebody into your list. How do you kind of nurture them? There's lots of different ways to nurture them. And there's so many different ways. I'm really just not going to go into it because there's just way too many ways to go into it, but I'll give you some pointers and I'll give you some ideas for structured posts. Okay. So an authority building post, we talked about that a little bit with, something like in a book or something to where I could even stand in authority somehow, some way. Like say I'm a cook and I'm in the kitchen and I've got my ingredients and everything. That's standing with the authority, right? For whatever I'm selling. Okay. So that's your authority post. The way I like to structure a lot of these is kind of what do they want and how do they get it? Or what is their struggle? How do they overcome it? And what's a call to action? Another one is the hell to the heaven. The hell to the heaven is a great one for hypnotherapists. So let's talk about that one. Let's go into a little bit more depth on that one. So a hell to heaven post is something like this. When I was 15 years, and I'm regurgitating this from a post I literally just did today because I was working with a client and I was showing her how to do this. When I was 15, I moved out of my parents' home. I was essentially on my own. I moved in with a friend of the family, and in exchange for room and board, I watched her 2 kids and we shared a room together. So basically my piece of the room was they took out the walls to the closet and they put in a little bed, and I was 15. So going from having my own room to now I'm in the closet, sharing the room with 2 little girls was really challenging. And I didn't have the support system of my parents. During this time, I built out my clients, and within 9 months, I was fully booked at 15. True story. I worked my butt off. I dropped out of school. I ended up getting my GED 6 months before my class did. Eventually, I graduated with an MBA and a 4.0. This taught me grit, resilience, and persistence. And it taught me a lot about myself, what I could do, what I couldn't do, what I was made of, essentially. This process was so key in developing my grit and determination as an entrepreneur, because I was raised with entrepreneurial parents and I learned a lot along the way. So I hear you, I see you. If you're struggling with entrepreneurship and you want to give up, I totally get that. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm giving up Me Too. Right? I was in this same situation. This is how I overcame it. So this is the hell I was in. Okay. I was lost. I was struggling. I was 15, moved in with family parents, had a car and a bed. That's about it. Okay. Now the heaven is these lessons that I learned took me a long way. I graduated with an MBA and a 4.0, the first one in my family to do so. I now have multiple businesses. Okay, so I'm taking them from the hell to the heaven. Now I work with clients around the globe. I literally have a global clientele. Okay, so any way you want to twist that, I can start out with something like, when I was 23, I lost my first baby. It was devastating. I went through this whole process of grief. Are you experiencing grief too? Have you lost a baby? What am I doing? Me too. I'm relating my story to their story. There's a connection there. What am I doing that for? It's the emotional connection. It's the rapport. It's so that they can see me, or they can see themselves in my story. I'm pulling them into my story. Okay. Integrity is huge here. Okay. We don't want to come up with some random off the wall story that's not true. We all have enough stories that we can pull from to take our customers from the hell to the heaven and show them that there's a better way. This is what I learned. What is that pivotal thing? What is that pivotal shift? And where are you now? That all making sense? Good? Did you guys like that? Was that helpful? Can you see how now writing posts for client attraction is not that difficult, right? Okay, so now when you're writing posts, Facebook, Instagram, I don't care where you're at, think of client attraction and keep within the, obviously, ethical integrity. You want them to be true. You don't want to just make something up. Allow yourself to tell a story and then draw them in different ways. Okay. Let's talk about sharing testimonials. Now, based on all the stuff that we've learned, and I get it's a lot. So I typically do an hour of these, like 1 hour sessions. So we're already over what I'm used to. And I do weekly Facebook Lives in 2 different groups. So if you remember anything from what you've learned here, and I'm talking about testimonials, why do you think testimonials are important?
Social proof.
Social proof. What else? There's no wrong answers here, guys. I'm just trying to force you to think a little bit. I always teach, I have this thing, I teach my clients to fish because I don't want you to feel like you have to keep coming back to me and running back to me for answers. So if I teach you strategies and if I teach you processes and formulas, then you're able to do this kind of stuff on your own. And that's what brings me joy. I love this. So I'm kind of pushing you a little bit. What did we learn? Go ahead.
I guess along the same lines of like eases buyers' concerns and worries, like, does this thing work? Right.
Okay. So we're getting more into a little bit of the objections, which we can talk about next if you guys would like, but it's more for the logical buyer, right? What did we learn about the logical buyer? Statistics, the ROI. Does this really work? It's a little bit for the emotional buyer, but not as much, in my opinion, because it does help build rapport and it does help show social proof. And emotional buyers want the social proof because they want to know that what's in it. Will it work for me? Is it really going to work for me? Like, show me some social proof. The logical buyer or the intellectual buyer wants the stats. They want actual proof, something tangible that will then convert them. Does that all make sense? Okay. So that's why social proof and testimonials are super important, but there's a wrong way to do it and there's a right way to do it. A wrong way to do it, which you'll probably see these. Now that you guys have gone through this, what you're going to find, because I do it all the time, is you're going to start becoming a little bit more hyper aware when you see social media posts, when you see people share stories, when you see something that stops the scroll and you read the copy, you're like, oh my gosh, that's what Wendy talked about. I see how they did that. They pulled you in, right? How can you mimic something like that? Not copy, right? Make it your own, but use that as a reference point. If it got you to stop, what can you do to make it your own? Okay. Use it as like a template or a framework, if you will. Okay. So with the testimonies, I see this. Somebody gets on video and they're like, oh my gosh, they were great. They were awesome. They were so easy to work with. And yeah, I would work with them again. No problem. Like, they were amazing. Oh my gosh. And they were so sweet. What's that going to do? Does that entice you to buy my shit? Yes, no, maybe. With me, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I can see that on YouTube. Okay.
It's very generic.
Yes, perfect. So if instead I say, you know what? I was struggling. I was $5,000 in debt. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know that there was a way out. My business just kept eating up all of my revenue. I was putting it all back into my business and I was not able to see anything from that. I wanted to be able to put money in the bank and I couldn't. And you know what? 3 months after working with Wendy, that's all changed. I have consistent 5K months now. I have a sales process dialed in. I'm no longer overwhelmed. and everything's awesome. It was the best decision ever. So what does that do? That change things? Be honest. Okay.
There's the proof there.
Right. What did it change though, really? Well, it's a before, what it was like before, and I see myself in that picture. What is that doing? It's building rapport. And me too. I struggle too. I can't seem to put any money in the bank either. I've got a busy life. I've got 5 kids I can't feed. My kids are always pulling on my leg and I can't get any work done in my office and I need help with productivity. What can you do that raises their hand that says me too? Then what is it like now? Again, you're going back to the hell to the heaven in a short time span for a testimonial. So when you're asking clients for testimonials, it's what did your life look like before? And what does it look like now? It is not, did you enjoy working with me? Did you enjoy the process? Are you much happier now? Those are super vague. They're not going to sell your customers. Very hyper specific and strategic in your messaging from everywhere across the board. What you say in your social media, what you put on your website, how you're collecting testimonials, strategy, strategic. Okay. It can't just be, hey, yeah, I was out in the garden today and it was great. And I mean, there's a time and a place for that because that builds connectivity and rapport because I'm letting you into my world, which is why you see a lot of people do, hey, let me show you the back end of my business, or let me give you an office tour and stuff like that. There is definitely a time and a place for that, but it shouldn't be all the time. There should be a little bit more strategy behind that. Okay, how are we doing? Is everybody still good? Is it a lot?
Yeah.
Am I losing everybody now? Y'all still with me? Are you awake?
Yes, we are.
I need a
We are.
process.
You just keep on going, girl.
Okay, so let's talk about a couple of different types of posts that you guys can do in your strategy, okay? Because we're talking about strategy here. When you're talking about a demonstration post, so a demonstration post is you're demonstrating your ability to solve this problem. If you're demonstrating your ability to solve a problem and your experience, you want to be very careful in the way that you position that. If you say you work with smokers and you say, every single smoker struggles with this. As soon as you say every, you've lost me. Do you see why? Okay, you guys know why. We don't have to go into that. Okay. You can say instead, here's what I find with most smokers. Okay, write that down. Okay. Or I find that this is a problem because you're softening it. You want to make sure that you're not being all inclusive with everybody and that every single person is this way, because people's bullshit meters will go up and say bullshit. That's not true. So soften your approach when you're doing a demonstration post, where you're still demonstrating your story, where you were. You can insert the struggle. You can relate that to a problem that your clients have. You know, when I tried to stop smoking, and then you can go into your story. Again, it's that hell to heaven kind of a thing, okay? And then you can expand on that and lead into your kind of conclusion. Well, the reason I feel this way is because of this, in my experience, okay? Does everybody get that? Okay. So another one that you can do is more of an interest post. And that's more of a desire. So if you want to overcome smoking, kind of, this is how you can do it, this is how I can help. It's touching on their desire. Their desire is to quit smoking, right? Okay, so that's more of a desire post. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that, but the more you get them to raise their hand and say, me too, the better it's going to be. So make sure that you're kind of figuring out creative ways to position yourself that way. And the more that you can present a solution, okay? So say I'm doing, I don't know, so let's use your weight loss as an example, okay? So most women going through menopause, we're going to use me, struggle with losing weight. And in my experience, this is the reason why. Now, that's why I created my 7-step process to overcome hormonal issues with weight loss. So see how I rolled into, that's why I created my 3-month program to help you overcome weight loss. That's why I created my 3 sessions on how you can quit smoking. You guys get where I'm going with this, okay? So those are important too, to kind of add into your solution to your audience. There was a couple other ones I was going to mention on kind of how it transformed you, how it changed you. You can do those ones. So there's demonstration stories, there's interest stories, there's authority posts, there's like all kinds of stuff that you guys can utilize in order to kind of help you attract your ideal customers. Okay. So I've spoken for like an hour and a half now. What questions do you guys have for me? I know that was a lot to take in, and especially if you're new, your mind's probably going, just take it one step at a time. What is your next best step? Find a process that works for you, dial in that process. But the best advice that I can give you is don't get squirrel brained. Focus on revenue generating activities. And if you don't know what they are, you should know. If you don't know what they are yet, you need to figure those out. Okay. What's bringing in, what are the activities directly tied to you bringing in revenue? And the third thing is you've got to dial in your messaging and your marketing. And with dialing in your messaging and marketing comes clarity and confidence. If you don't have the confidence and the clarity to sell your services, people are not going to buy. And I see so many people struggle with the services they offer. And it's like, maybe you do sales calls, maybe you don't. Maybe you're talking to somebody in the grocery store and they're like, well, yeah, so I do hypnosis and I primarily work with, weight loss. Oh, that's great. How can you help me? Well, we start with, I gather some information. I have you fill out this form. It gives me a better idea of what we can do together. And then, we get on the phone. I ask you some questions about maybe your history and stuff. And oh my gosh, you've lost me. Totally lost me. If you approach it and you say, yeah, I'm a hypnotherapist and my specialty is weight loss. I help women who are going through hormones lose those stubborn 15 pounds, and I'm very good at what I do. Wow, really? So how can you help me? Well, great. Well, I basically sign you up, and within 6 sessions, we work together. And by the time we're done working, you have all the tools and resources that you need to be able to have that weight loss off long-term. So when you step into your power and I have this thing, that's kind of like my phrase, name it and claim it. And this goes with imposter syndrome, unworthy, undeserving. There's all kinds of energetic things and subconscious things that go behind this, but this is reality. There is no limit of ideas. Every single idea that you have is up in the ether. Anybody can grab it at any time. You have an idea, guaranteed you're not the only person on this planet that has that same idea. The only difference is from somebody that has had the same idea, that has less experience, less knowledge, and less confidence than you, is they named it and claimed it. So what I mean by that is, this is mine. I'm claiming it. I am a hypnotherapist for people who are passing on to the next phase of their life or spiritual journey or whatever. I am a hypnotherapist for smoking cessation. I'm a hypnotherapist for weight loss. That is me. I'm naming it. I'm claiming it. It's mine. This is what I do. Point blank, period, end of story. There's no wavering. There's no maybe I do this or sometimes I do that, or no, name it and claim it. Stand in that power, own it, so that when you show up with clarity and confidence. And if you don't have that clarity and confidence yet, do the market research. Do a few free sessions. Okay, when you started riding a bike, guaranteed you didn't just get on the bike and say, I'm a badass, I'm gonna go, right? You fell down a few times. You had to pick yourself back up. You had to train yourself to ride that bike with skills. Now you get on it and it's a no-brainer. I didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm a badass marketer. I didn't. I would have liked that. But no, it took me 30 years to develop this. I've literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in my education to learn what I know. It didn't happen overnight. Okay. But the more you name it and claim it and own it, then work towards building that muscle of clarifying your audience, clarifying what you do, and the confidence to step into that power, the better you will be. And the more you will be less persuaded into shiny objects. Make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about specific, I guess, a client question or client objection. I think I've heard this a couple of times. And so I was like offering like free a pro bono session.
Yep.
And he asked like, well, what's the process like? Which is a fair question, right? Like, you've never done hypnosis.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, and I told him like straight up, like, well, we'll hop on a call, right? Like, I just need to ask some more questions to clarify. You know, we'll do a suggestibility test. We'll abduct you into hypnosis. I'll give you the suggestions, and then we're good. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess now that I'm hearing, you know, what you were saying, I probably bored him and like or just like lost him. But I guess like if someone is asking about the process, which is probably a very common question, I mean, what do you say? I mean,
Sure, fair enough. Let me give you an example. I'm a fitness trainer. Okay, and I work with health and nutrition. And you come to me and say, what is your process? Oh, perfect. Yeah, I can totally help you out with. So this is my process. First, I'll have you download this app. We're going to really monitor how many calories you're taking in a day. Every time you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're going to track it. Then we're going to meet in the gym 7 days a week for an hour at a time. And I will monitor your heart rate. So I'll give you a heart rate monitor. And you're going to have to log down how many reps you do every time we work together, because you know what gets tracked gets measured. And then at the end of 3 months, we'll hit your goal. No, thank you. Right? However, same scenario. Yeah, no problem. Well, I will set you up on my 5-step protocol. It's super easy to do, very easy to implement. And within 3 months of us working together, you'll hit your goal. It doesn't matter your protocol. All I want to know is what's in it for me. And if you're making me work harder, if you're making me think harder, if you're making me think through those steps and those processes, brain overload, I'm done. And it's harder now than ever to keep people's attention because of social media, because of information fatigue. So the simpler you can make it for me, the more you're going to keep me engaged and the more you're going to get me to say, hell yes, sign me up where. Now, if they go into, well, so do you offer a nutrition plan and do you do this and do that? Then by all means, answer those questions because that's something they're interested in. But as an emotional buyer, I don't want to know all that. I want to know what's in it for me. What is the end result of me working with you? That's all I want to know. If I'm an intellectual buyer, I might ask you some questions. So do you have a couple of testimonials that you can share with me, please? Do you have case studies that I can look over? Do you maybe have a website I can read about? tell me a little bit more about your process. Am I going to have to like show up in the gym every day for 7 days a week for 2 hours doing HIIT training? What if I hate cardio? Like, what do you do then? So if they're asking specific poignant questions, absolutely answer them, but also answer them in a way where you're not just vomiting in the mouth more information. Give them just what they need to know. Okay. Nice. And you're not alone, by the way. Like, it's very common. Every single thing that we've talked about, you guys, every single thing that I have laid out, I have literally coached people on for years and years about this. Everything the same. You are not alone. It's very common. It's just a process. Okay.
Wendy,
Yeah.
do you work with people, ex-military with PTSD?
Do I work with that?
Yes.
I do not.
Okay, I was just wondering, I've had several and they don't know how to get the insurance to pay, but I don't take insurance. Is there any way hypnotherapists can start taking insurance?
I do not believe so.
Did you-
It's not a paid insurance kind of a thing.
Okay,
It's almost like if I was to go to a naturopathic doctor, most insurances do not cover that. It's an alternative mode of healing, or an alternative mode that is not fully recognized by the healthcare system. So that's, yeah.
well, some insurance agencies are loosening up. I put a call into Aetna the other day. I went to one of their meetings because they're looking at alternative ways to treat their clients instead of going to the hospital and stuff like that. So I just wondered if you'd heard anything on this yet.
No, not as of yet. And because hypnotherapy is not regulated, I think it will be a while. Even though alternative healing is not regulated, Reiki and energy work is becoming more of an acceptance, especially with meditation. And they're finding how important meditation is on the mind and the overall body health. Insurance companies are seeing the benefits of that. It is a protocol to prevent heavier things down the line that will cost more money. So they're seeing that as a preventative for sure.
Well, I'm trying to figure out one way, because that's what I get a lot of the times. People walk in, the first thing they do is tell me what insurance company they have. And I said, I don't take insurance.
Yeah.
So but I'm trying to find ways to do that. I've got several doctor friends that are trying to help me out also.
Yeah.
To be able to help the client.
For sure, because I think it is definitely needed. I think 100%, like, it can be very beneficial to people who are suffering from that. And it's unfortunate that it's not recognized yet, but hopefully in our lifetime it will be. Well, I guess the jury's still on that. We'll see.
We'll see. One of the psychiatrists I work with down here, she's a psychologist, I'm sorry. Down here, she takes insurance, but she's licensed. Okay.
Correct. That's different.
So
now.
I did tell her what I could do is I could bill her and she could tack on 30% and bill the insurance company. We can play that game.
Yeah. Be very careful about that legally though, because that could get you into trouble. I'm not sure, because it could come out to be some type of, and again, I'm not giving you any legal advice whatsoever, but that could come out to be some type of fraud because they're billing fraudulently for the services that they provide and you're getting a kickback.
Well, see, the thing was, I know that certain, like a dentist, you can go in and pay them cash and they'll write you out a receipt and they turn around and reimburse the patient.
Yeah.
And so that's one other thing they're doing. And I was warned about that little trick too.
Yep.
But the spine doctor, pain doctor down here said, don't try that. He said, here's what might happen.
Correct.
And he said, you don't have the money.
You definitely don't want to muddy the water or draw attention to yourself. I think there's enough ways to earn revenue legally and in a way that keeps you out of trouble versus trying to get creative just so you can help a segment of the market that can't pay. Right. Although your intentions are well, it doesn't do anybody any good if you get fined and you end up losing the ability to be able to help anyone. So I don't even mess around with that realm. I just don't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you on that answer.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions for me? Okay. Did you guys find that this was helpful? I wanted to make sure I didn't waste anybody's time.
No, this was really good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Well, if you guys have any questions at all, you can reach out to me. I get DMs all the time. So you can reach out to me in the DMs or you can reach out to me in the group and I will reply to your questions there. And I have client calls all weekend long. So I will try to get you that market research script probably maybe Sunday sometime when I have a break.
Okay.
Thank
Cool.
you. Appreciate that.
All right,
Very
guys,
cool.
it's been fun. I'm glad it was helpful for you guys. And if you get stuck, reach out, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you,
So
Wendy.
much.
Very
All right.
welcome. All right,
Bye,
bye-bye.
Wendy. Bye,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot. Have a good one, everyone.
Michael, that was cool.
Good deal. Okay, well, it's a lot of fun. So until next time, I will bid everyone good night because I also have things to get on with. So
What time's class tomorrow, dude? Is that
Tomorrow?
12:30 tomorrow?
Eastern, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I'll be here at the office. I'll see you then, Mike. Have a good night, everybody.
To you, Gene. Thank you, Michael.